Welcome everyone to VP and reports training. This is Emily Trembeth. I'm going to take the VP training and then we're going to hand it off to Scott Steinbrenner, who's going to take the reports training. So if you haven't already, please type in the chat box your name and the PTA that you are representing. And you can also use the chat to ask questions. Catherine, are you going to be able to monitor that?
Yes, ma'am. I will do so.
Okay, so let's get started. Okay, let me get to the active page. There we go. Welcome to Cherokee County Council PTA. I'm Emily Trembeth, like I said, and we are congratulating you on being your school's advocate. This is such an important role that you have as a vice president. CCSD has 45 schools and we have over 42,000 students and 36 local PTA units. PTA was founded in 1897. So we have over 120 years of proud service. As vice presidents, you have been elected by your membership to serve as a representative of your school's local PTA unit to your community. You are an advocate of the PTA. Your membership is counting on you to manage the organization responsibly, plan the programs, spend the funds, and promote advocacy for all children wherever you go. They will ask you questions and expect you to find answers. Your decisions will impact your school, students, and the families they represent, and this is no small task. You are not alone. Your board is your team. Council is here for you every step of the way, and the members of your board will become some of your closest friends over the next 12 months, hopefully. You will learn more about PTA than you ever thought possible. You're going to have thrills and chills, and you and your team have the potential to make an enormous impact on the families that you serve. So we're going to, as VPs, carry the PTA name proudly and cautiously, reach out for help, use your resources, and enjoy the ride. Be aware before you speak that people are listening to you. So we want to get off to a good start and set the tone for the school year. Where are you going? We're going to set some goals. Visions and goals. We brainstorm together. How do you want to impact your school and community this year? How can your team make a difference for the education, health, and welfare of children and youth? Set overall goals for the year that are in line with PTA's mission, including membership goals. So what next? We advocate, tone, goals. What do I do now? The PTA mission is every child, one voice. It is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. So the basic structure of the PTA. PTA is an independent nonprofit association. Your PTA is an advocacy association, not a booster organization. Your PTA is connected to Georgia State PTA and National PTA. So our PTA has first executive committee, which consists of officers, a parliamentarian, and your principal. Then the executive committee the roles are presidents or co-presidents, vice presidents and co-vice presidents, secretary, and treasurer. And then you also have a board of directors, which is your executive committee, plus your standing committee chairs, such as membership, reflections, what else? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those kinds of committees are going to need chairs. So what is the role and responsibility of vice presidents? As vice president, you may be called upon at any time to assume the role of president, temporarily or until the position is filled in accordance with your PTA's bylaws. Responsibilities include implementing duties delegated by the president, representing the president in his or her absence, performing specific duties outlined in your bylaws, familiarizing yourself with all PTA programs and resources, preparing for leadership by attending additional trainings and events that may be offered by your council, district, state, or national PTA. When local units have more than one vice president, they often designate specific duties for each vice president, such as vice president of membership, vice president of communications, etc. Suggested committees to have in your PTA or PTSA are membership, advocacy, legislative and bylaws, family engagement, diversity, equity, inclusion, and reflections. We tend to model our committees from state and national PTA. And we do understand that sometimes the executive committee does double duty as committee chairs, but it's recommended that you have more voices on the board and offer others to chair the committees. And vice presidents oversee the committees. National standards for family school partnerships. We welcome all families. We communicate effectively. We support student success. We speak up for every child, share power, and collaborate with the community. So welcoming all families into the school community. Families are active participants in the life of the school and feel welcomed, valued, and connected to each other, to school staff, and to what students are learning and doing in class. So we should, as a PTA, offer low or no cost events, greet parents at events as we can. In the last 2 years, we know that this has been kind of weird. Host meetings virtually, which is great that we can do that. And recruit bilingual volunteers to interpret for families whose first language isn't English. And also I would recommend to make all of your communications on social media, Member Hub, make them bilingual if you can for your main, if you have another language, such as at RM Moore, 36% of our families speak Spanish as their first language. So we translate everything. Communicating effectively. Families, PTA, and school staff engage in regular, two-way, meaningful communication about student learning. Make sure information is communicated in languages and formats to reach all parents, as I mentioned. Ask for feedback and insight. And casual Q&A, coffee chats for parents, staff, and PTA leaders to kind of get feedback from your families. Standard 3 is supporting student success. Families and school staff continuously collaborate to support students' learning and healthy development, both at home and at school, and have regular opportunities to strengthen their knowledge and skills to do so effectively. So we host things like a curriculum night, multicultural night, National PTA Family Reading Experience, incorporate student and family learning into the PTA calendar, work with school leadership to conduct parent and student workshops. So all of these things support student success. Speaking up for every child, families are empowered to be advocates for their own and other children to ensure that students are treated fairly and have access to learning opportunities that will support their success. So we would want to support things like PTA at the Capitol, school handbook, available in all the languages that we spoke about, regularly notify parents of bills and other legislative related topics that might affect their children in their schools. Sharing power. Families and school staff are equal partners in decisions that affect children and families, and together inform, influence, and create policies, practices, and programs. We want to lead with an intentional commitment to being inclusive to all families' perspectives and unique needs. Listen to differing opinions, seek a solution that delivers the best outcome for students. Collaborating with the community. Families and school staff collaborate with community members to connect students, families, and staff to expanded learning opportunities, community services, and civic participation. So you could host a community fair highlighting programs that support the cultural, recreational, academic, health, social, and other needs of your families. Invite senior, retired community members to volunteer at the school. Those are all great ways to collaborate with your community. So we're talking about growing our membership now. A strong and engaged membership benefits all kids in your school and throughout your community. Family engagement is linked to higher graduation rates, improved test scores, and teacher retention, among other important outcomes. When your membership is strong, your PTA voice is strong too. An enthusiastic, organized membership committee is the key. Develop a plan for an ongoing, year-long membership drive that clearly communicates the value of someone's investment in PTA membership. Keep it focused on making a difference in the lives of all children. Attracting and retaining members is not just the responsibility of the membership chair. Your PTA will see an increase in participation if you focus on every aspect of your PTA. Every officer, board member, committee chair's responsibilities on achieving strong, positive, two-way relationships with families, teachers, and others in your community. So know your personal why. Why did you join PTA? Why are you a board member? Share your story widely and often. Listen and understand. Seek perspectives of families and staff. Consider and value their feedback. Value their time. Be organized at events. Purposeful with PTA efforts. Specific about what is needed from your volunteers. And be very thankful for any and all support that you receive. Pay attention to membership reports, meet goals using personal connections, support your membership chair in recruitment activities, challenge the rest of your board to be fully involved as well. And if you show you care, others will follow. Share the value of PTA. Make sure your members and community know all about all of the programs or improvements led by PTA. Volunteerism is the voice of the people put into action. These actions shape and mold the present into a future of which we can all be proud. The quote by Helen Dyer. So for recruiting volunteers, you want to contact every person who offers to volunteer, even if you have more people than you need for any given event. The fastest way to lose a volunteer is to ignore their offer of time. People are busy. If people offer to help when they can, grab them or keep their name in a list. Reconnect with volunteers throughout the year. Those who couldn't help at the beginning of the year may be available the next time you call. Match volunteers to potential jobs based on their skills and available time. Consider an orientation for all volunteers, including introducing them to school policies, people, programs, and the school building itself. And a lot of people are new and don't know, so that would be a great thing for you to do. Give a variety of opportunities for volunteers, including assignments that can be done in small blocks of time, remotely, and those that can be done outside of school hours. Seek feedback. Did they have what they needed to do their job? And if not, what was missing? And recognize volunteers. Thank them profusely for their efforts and thank them often. So planning and promoting. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal broken down into steps becomes a plan, and a plan backed by action becomes reality. A thoughtful plan provides the foundation of a successful PTA year. It must be aligned with the PTA mission, custom to the unique needs of your community, and influenced by survey results from families, staff, and administrators. Now is the time to create your plan, goals, and objectives. Develop budget based on your goals. You track your progress throughout the year based on the goals, and adapt as necessary. Be flexible. Include methods for evaluating success and celebrate along the way. Plans are living documents. They need attention in order to thrive. So what questions can we answer? Are there anybody that have questions? Questions, anyone?
I was just gonna, hey, Emily, not a right question, but something I was gonna share from my experience as VP. I was vice president at Little River for 2 years. And that was my first exposure to PTA. I had a year-long committee of Dad's Club, as well as my other counterpart that she had hospitality. Obviously that kept her busy day and night. But if you don't have a set responsibility, I did feel like VP is kind of like, what do I do? I like want something that I own. So it's a good thing to, your PTA as a whole or your board as a whole, like if somebody is doing something like membership, for instance, like our recording secretary has always done it. Well, it doesn't have to be the recording secretary because they have a job already of doing the minutes. Maybe a VP could do that instead. And that gives them a set task, because that's just where I struggled. And I know we heard feedback from our last VPs that they just never knew what to work on because there was nothing really defined for them. So that's
Point.
really more for your also advice for the presidents to, find tasks for you guys to own as VPs.
So my vice presidents last year were extremely helpful with getting spirit wear taken care of, and also our spirit nights. So contacting the restaurants, that was really great. It's a huge help.
And another thought I was having just a second ago was, maybe as VP, maybe you want to volunteer to become like the member hub guru on your team. And then that would give you something to focus on. Not something to focus on, that's not stated correctly, but that gives you something that you're like, I'm going to own and I'm going to teach those on my team. So that's another good vice president type task, is to become maybe the membership hub guru on the team.
Yeah, that's a great point, because Member Hub has changed a lot even since last year. It's all completely
it's a
new.
mystery.
So if one person could become that, point of contact and really learn it well, then that's a huge thing. That would be great for VP. Catherine, did you have anything to add?
Oh, I can always add things, but necessarily have, I think really one of the things is support your president and let them know that it's not all on their shoulders. So, Scott did a great job with Lori and I. He was like, you know what, I'm just going to take Member Hub, because even though last year, I wasn't president or anything, but I was doing the state membership committee. So I did a lot of Member Hub, but to not have to focus and learn Member Hub right now is so helpful. And I just follow all his posts. So if there's something that you have a strength in, compliment your president. The goal of a vice president is to support. And sometimes keep your president on track. So sometimes that is knowing those bylaws, and kind of knowing. There was some times where, the president would say, well, let's do this. And I was like, hold up, that goes against the PTA national standards. So kind of know some of that stuff, because we can get caught up as presidents, can be going a mile a minute in our brains, and we can become caught up and then lose sight of the mission. And the mission is to be one child, one voice, all children. Is to support children's success in schools and in communities and families. So if you're always working towards that goal as a board, and if you're always supporting each other towards that goal, then you're gonna have a successful year. Sometimes it is hard. I know I started as a VP as well, and I was kind of like, what am I supposed to be doing? In charge of committees? Well, what kind of committees, and it was, this is the way we've always done it. So then it was a lot of, well, can we rethink some of these things because they don't work for the school? It might have worked for the school 5 years ago, but the demographics have changed or something has changed. So kind of sometimes VPs can be that creative voice too.
Absolutely. Those are great points.
Any specific questions?
Hey, Scott, I'm going to stop sharing so that you can start
Okay.
sharing your reports.
Yep. And
Thank
then,
you, Emily.
thank you, Emily. Good job.
Welcome.
This kind of does, the report part does complement the vice president part. The vice president, there's not as much to talk about as the nitty, like, treasurer, you have a lot of stuff to talk about. But
Yes.
I know when I was a VP, they, like, right out of the gate, they're like, Scott, could you handle keeping track? And I'll show you one of the reports and just keep track of the checklist. And I was like, oh, okay. So I felt like it's a good compliment. So it's good that we're pairing this together.
Yes, VPs, write a report.
No, it's not. All right. Shit. Let me see if I can share my screen. Everyone see this?
Yes.
All right. Let me see if does that work? Everyone still see it?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And hear me, I'm good? Okay. So reports. I guarantee a majority of people were not told and sold on reports when asked to join the PTA board. A lot of us, I felt like, I know I didn't even really know about it until the second semester when we start like talking about them and writing them, and you're like, what is this? So we thought it would be helpful to talk about them up front. And you'll see I've included in here some goals and what we won't focus on tonight. But the main questions I hope we can answer at the end of the night are, what are reports? How can the process of writing reports and submitting them be less painful? And what can we be doing now? And basically the reports are either a narrative or checklists that we're submitting to what local units submit to council, to district, and to Georgia PTA to get recognized for the work that you're doing in your school. It can be a lot of effort, but it's also, there's a lot we can be doing up front to not make it as painful. So that's, our goals for tonight, I've made up these goals that everyone else can disagree, is to encourage our local units to track, document, and even write throughout the year. It doesn't, we'll have more training and a big push in January, February, but that doesn't have to be the only time that we track and document. To promote a continuous sense of accomplishment. If you're writing and taking notes of what you've been doing throughout the year, you feel a lot better. I know it's a reminder to me when we're writing the reports of the good work that the PTA has done at our school. And it's nice to feel that throughout the year rather than the 1 month. To provide clear direction on what counts for reports throughout the year. And that's more of a task for the board to do, because I know last year there was a lot of room for interpretation on some stuff counts, some didn't, because maybe we didn't have this particular meeting, but these three things counted for that, and it was kind of vague. So that will be on us. To strengthen the organization and project management skills and the confidence of our local leaders. And then this is the last two are important ones, to change the behavior, programs, or events while we're planning based off, not requirements, but documentation that's available for the reports is, maybe look at our events now and change stuff based off recommendations that are found in the reports. And then to limit the scramble, the final days before reports are due, but this will happen anyway, but at least, so don't worry. But what we can do now is most helpful. Oh, did I miss a thing? Okay. I had this out of order and I will fix it for when we post it. What we're not going to cover today is like the format and actually how to write it, because that's way more than you all need to know right now. Kind of when they're due, the only exception is the membership awards, because some of those are due in August and September. And that, I mean, we're almost in July, so obviously, you know, time flies. So those are ones you kind of have to keep in the back of your head. But the most important to me, in my opinion, is just, you know, don't focus on what other schools you might be seeing when, you know, posted on Facebook and, you know, council sharing successes. Like, don't be discouraged because you're doing great things, and don't focus on what other schools may be doing that you feel like you're like, oh, I couldn't get that done at my school. I've tried, but, you know, because you're doing equally great things. So that's what we need to focus on. All right, going back to my slide. The reports that we submit as local units to the 3 groups of PTA are membership-based awards. And I've put the awards here at the top, and then also the page numbers found in the leadership resource guide. So I'll encourage you to check out after this to go to those pages and just, we're going to look at a few of them tonight, but for the meatier ones, look at them, you know, over the next couple of days and just do some post studying. Membership awards, which are both awards based on the number of members you get, but then there's also number of community partners you get. If you get 30 community partners, which can be not just businesses, but other folks in the community that don't go to your school or have kids at your school. And then there's one for 100% staff. That's another one that's always complicated. It's like, what counts as full-time versus part-time? And we'll help you with that along the way. So focus on, you know, when school starts, getting your teachers and your parapros first, and you're going to be well on your way with that. The next 3 awards are for, next 4 awards actually are for individuals at your school. There's the outstanding Bernie Butler Outstanding Educator Award, principal, nurse, and then visionary is usually a PTA member for that. Those I have the page numbers, and those will be ones that, you know, don't really have to work on. Think about that now. The only thing I can suggest for that is just take notes throughout the year. If, you know, oh, my principal did this, that's great. Just make note of it, like something fantastic they may have done in September, because by February, you probably may forget if you're like me. Just so that's where I recommend for those is just take a look at those page numbers and see what kind of things they ask about your educator, your principal, and nurse, and visionary, and just take notes of, you know, people that stand out. The 3 big ones here are all include stuff that you can do now. The Hearst Family Partnership, those are those 6 standards that Emily showed are the Hearst Family School Partnerships. And you can write narratives about what you do for one of them or all 6 of them. And those page numbers in the resource guide actually have, you know, documentation on the questions that you should be asking yourselves. But I guess with that, I'm saying, like, look at your events now while you're planning. And, you know, and Emily mentioned this as well, is, you know, look at what you're planning, and does your events fit the 6 standards of the Hearst Family Partnerships? If they don't, you know, tweak the award or tweak the program, maybe, you know, swap it out with something new that does, because it will be a lot easier to plan your events and make sure that it includes standards now than at the end of, you know, in February, you're trying to like force it into places. And it's like, well, it kind of did it, not really did it. I don't know. The model PTA one and the outstanding local unit, those are the two we're going to look at today. I have the resource guides up because there are checklists of items that you can be doing. The model PTA is strictly a 2-page checklist, and you have to do, I think, 13 out of the 15 on the first page and everything on the second page. They do, if you were at CLT or saw posts about the, oh, help me, Catherine, what was it? The compliance. What was that thing that Dawn, my brain lapsed? The
Standards of affiliation.
yes, the standards of affiliation. Thank you. I just had it too. A lot of the model PTA items meet that, like going to training and submitting your members online. You know, that if you're doing that and you're staying a PTA, you're also doing the checklist item for the model PTA. And then the outstanding local unit has narratives that very much mirror the Hearst, and you pretty much can drop that in. But there's also a bunch of checklists. And the ones that always, and I'll show you that in a minute, the ones that always get me on the checklist are your membership campaigns. Are they incorporating these different toolkits and programs and ideas? And you're like, oh, I wish I had thought of some of these in the summer when I'm about to start recruiting, get members. So that's an important one to look at now. That and model PTA are really what we can focus on now, but I wanted to go over all of them so that you're aware of the different awards that you can submit. Oops, let me, hopefully you see this. All right, can you, it switch? Okay. The membership ones, I'm just going to show this. So this is straight out of the leadership resource guide, and I have the pages in the deck, but there's different awards you can get based off the number of members you can get or that you get. So like the visionary pin and certificate, if you have 400 members by to Georgia PTA by the last business day of August, you'll submit this. A lot of times people do it and they just don't know about this in August, and then they don't submit it. And you have to have paid for them through MemberHub, which your treasurer will become very familiar with that process and paying for your members. So like I had the membership person or the president can fill this out, but just confirm with the treasurer, that you have submitted for all those members. And the pay setter is 300 by the last business day of August. And then the early bird is 200 by the last business day of September. So just keep those in your mind. Some of them may be, well, we've never had that before, but it's good to know that these awards are out there because your PTA may be hitting these and then they're not submitting because they didn't know to do it now. These last 4 are all based off like 100% membership achieved. We've never come close at our school because I think it's like 1 per every child, right? And with 1,300 kids at Little River, that can only dream of that one, but
That's easy. Come on, Scott.
So these awards are out here. The other 2 I mentioned are community partners. And, here, as you're getting business partners for business sponsors for your PTA, and a portion of their donation can make them a sponsor or make them a PTA member, add them to MemberHub, and then that's well on your way. Or ask, other people in the community and, parents that used to have kids at your school, but they no longer do. If you ask them to join their PTA, and they join, that's a community member. And then the last one is the Oak Tree, which is your 100% staff. And we'll provide more information on what qualifies as, hitting 100% staff, because some of that area is kind of gray. And I always ask that same question every year. What counts as like, full-time, part-time? custodians. So don't worry about that. But I just wanted to show you that's out there. The one I wanted to go to right now is, where is it? I had it. I should have saved each one of these separate. Outstanding local unit. This is the one this is the big one that your PTA can submit as far, and has narrative, advocacy checklist. That was another one I left off, and membership checklist. But the thing for you to look at here now is to go to this afterwards and look at some of these items. Like you can get points for, if you submitted everyone should be submitting your officers by May 1st. I think that's a hard one because a lot of that was done before you actually took over. It really should have been the previous board that would have submitted it. But like this and your committee chairs by the end of August, just keep note of that stuff and that do that now and print these off and keep them in a notebook. And that's what I did when I was in charge of this is, then we went over at every EC meeting, just like making note of what we had done throughout the year already. Oh, we've submitted our officers. This was the date. We submitted our committee chairs, or, have we paid our insurance? And our treasurer like, oh yeah, I paid that on, August 5th. And then you could write the date in and just keep those dates ongoing throughout the year. The advocacy checklist is one I forgot to mention, so I'll add it back to this form, is relating to advocacy and stuff that you're doing to advocate for kids. Now, some of these include like, going to convention and leadership training. If you had someone that went, like, it's not saying everyone, but if your school was represented at CLT, you check it off. There's e-learning and national convention is actually going on right now. Some of you it's virtual, so some of you may be attending that, but if not, there's e-learning on the National PTA website. And it's helpful for you to learn your role and about PTA now, but it's also something to check off now and not scramble at the end of the year. Workshops, council and district will promote them throughout the year. The PTA Day at the Capitol is in February, so that will be promoted. That comes down from Georgia PTA. Some of these are difficult ones just to me because I don't usually know what to post, but giving updates at your regular meetings on advocacy items. This would probably fall on your advocacy chair. That's the best person to probably do that. Doesn't have to be on the board, could be on the board, but just, give updates on advocacy items in your emails, your newsletters, your PTA meetings, attend a local school board meeting. Now that there's a virtual link that makes it a lot easier to attend. There's information, and we'll share this stuff too, there's a PTA Takes Action, or like an action center, and you can register to get information about that. So it's like, if you publish that information to your members on how to get added to that, email list, then that's another item to check off. And then some of these are like attending a committee or PTA Day at the Capitol. Some of these I always felt were hard. Like I never really wrote a letter to, the newspaper or anything like that. I'm not good with that stuff, but if there is, but like one year we had a teacher that was writing, and she was a PTA member and she was advocating on the school calendar. She's a PTA member and spoke on our school's behalf. So just take a look at this on what you could be doing and just track that throughout the year. Let's see, membership. This is probably the biggest one, right, of what you could be doing right now, because this is very membership campaign oriented. Come up with a theme for membership. If you've defined a theme, then check you've done it and list it here. If you've earned some of the awards, you check that off. If you share with your PTA members, national and Georgia PTA member benefits and discounts, so that they know what they, as a PTA member, what they get. You can check that out in the national PTA membership. On the national PTA site, there is a quick reference guide and some toolkits that you can download and look at, and use that in your campaigns. I know last year our president used some of the logos and the stuff that was provided when she was posting on Facebook in July to start recruiting members. Membership, if you've not thought about it, membership forms in your front office, leave. Now, a lot of it's electronic based, but I know what we did right when you walk into the school, we did a QR code and it took you right into the Member Hub store, and you can join right there from your phone at the front of the school. And we had an English flyer and a Spanish flyer. I don't know how many people observe that when they're trying to go to the front office, but it was there. It's still there, I think. And then, if you use Member Hub, which that pretty much pushes, everyone has to do that now. And then just different campaigns that you could be doing throughout the year, like to recruit teachers and get males involved and get community partners involved. Just think of that stuff now and keep that in a notebook, or and that you're doing it ahead of time rather than in February. And then just kind of frequently promote your values and the vision and mission and purpose of PTA. I think a lot of times, I know we did a lot of promoting, hey, there's a dance this Friday, but we really didn't post a lot about like why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing. So that a helpful thing. And then the other things here to keep track of is just, let's see, ways that you can increase family engagement and student achievement. Just think of that now. And let's see, surveys. We always found surveys were really helpful. And at the end of the year, or when appropriate, we would send a survey to our parents, asking them for different, how we can improve, what they liked, what they don't like. That's all, stuff that you can claim later that you used parent feedback. And think about how, your volunteers, we had a whole section tonight about getting volunteers. Just so these reports include ways that you can recognize and recruit volunteers, and then ways that those standards, those six standards, which are actually included on this PowerPoint again. So, but we're not going to go over them because Emily already did, but they're on this slide deck as well. So you can see them in both places. The model PTA one is the other one I was going to show. And this one really is like a operational checklist. I know that one is called, there's actually one called the operational checklist, but I feel like the whole thing is kind of an operational checklist. And, it's stuff like, did I submit my officers by May 1st and my chairs by August 31st? So that's stuff that you can kind of use, if you want to take this on as a VP and just keep everyone accountable. Hey, are our officers already submitted? If the answer is no, go ahead and do it. And, the fact that you did it is good. I mean, I know when I first joined PTA, one of the leaders, I went to a reports workshop at CLT, and she was, the district director was very focused on like, not the nitty that the date wasn't as important as the fact that you did it. So, I mean, do it now, and then you can check this off and say it was completed and initial it. We don't get that fancy when we're going through it. We just put the date and then we can make a prettier version at the end of in February. But maintain and update your bylaws. That's something that, again, is something that's standard practice. So a lot of these are standard practice to make you a functional PTA. So just kind of use this as a guide. And this is probably the most important one of the evening, in my opinion. preparing a calendars, probably your boards are doing that right now. Some of it may be difficult with not knowing how the school year looks, but so you're still kind of working on that. But as long as share that by the first day of school. Plan of work, that was there's a whole section in the leadership resource guide on that about so that your committee chairs are documenting what their plan is, how much it's going to cost, what volunteers they need. It's basically their plan that you guys get to see as an executive committee board. Submitting your audit, most, if not all, you should be in the middle of the previous board would be working on getting your audit submitted right now. That's an item on here. Doing a budget, having it approved by September 30th, that's an item on here. So again, a lot of these are all send at least one delegate to council meetings, district conference, and fall conference. This is one that we always did our best to rotate. Zoom made it easier, but as far as in person, is we tried to rotate who went. I mean, at least have one person that was like confirmed and you're going and this is your designated. Everyone else could go if they want, but I do know it can be difficult at times, but so at least one delegate from your PTA is at all of these. Setting your membership goal. This is something to talk with your membership chair, is like a 2% increase from last year. Members of your board attended CLT, digital or virtual this year or hybrid, they both count. This is clearly outdated, even though it's in the leadership resource guide. And then at least two of these events that we've already talked about, and a lot of them are advocacy items. Convention at the Capitol, attending a school board, submitting your insurance, filing your 990. That's another thing that your treasurer will work on. And then implementing communication plan, like talk about now with your boards, how you're going to communicate with your community going forward. Let's see. This is the operational guidelines. This one is identify somebody that's a family engagement chair. And that person would be part of your board of directors. It could be a board member. It could be somebody not on your board. Let's see what else. And then a lot of these are really they're all family engagement focused. And I don't want to go through every one of these again, but it's basically that, that your family engagement person understands the national standards, and there's e-learnings that they can attend, collect feedback from, that goes back to the survey, collect feedback from your community. And then results are shared, you can either share internally or with the entire community. We've done both approaches. So this second page is something good to look at now, to come up with a plan of what you want to do throughout the year. But the nitty details of like, this must be submitted with one page and document, like we won't worry about that right now because that's more than you need to know. But it's good to see like what kind of items, like this challenge is like submitting one of the Hearst Award awards meets that, but then you can also do other stuff. Like you can take family engagement certificate of completion online modules, or share a national PTA family resource, or apply to be National School of Excellence. So there's a bunch of stuff you guys can talk about now with your board on what you want to do as a PTA this year. That's all and then let me go back to my slide deck. So just again, here's the resource guide. I linked it in here for you to look at. It's just helpful to go. I mean, the resource guide is helpful in general, but the reports, kind of knowing what ideas you could have that to incorporate in your events now while you're planning or your membership campaigns, that's good information to know now. And then those standard I mentioned are all at the end of this. So it's right here. I've attached them again, so you don't have to go to the second slide deck. But, all right, so let me know if y'all think I answered these questions. What are reports? We answer that? How can we process be less stressful for local units? Hopefully I answered that with, just kind of look at stuff now and look at what's involved now and what you can be doing now to check some items off from the documentation. And that also answers that last question. But any questions? That was a lot of information.
Gosh, this is a quiet group.
Don't be shy.
I want to know what Carly's making because she's been working this whole hour and I'm like, what's for dinner? Yeah, Carly, you. Like, what's for dinner?
I'm making a bunch of vegetables that my kids will not eat.
Oh, I get that.
No, it's okay. It's extra for the week so that I have leftovers tomorrow. But I very much enjoy cooking. So when I get to kick everybody out of the kitchen and listen, it's actually the most that I get to pay attention at any other time during the day. So
Awesome.
it works for me. But no, that was very helpful. I did the virtual side of the hybrid conference that we had a couple weeks ago. And I'm new this year and I know I'm working with a bunch of amazing ladies, but it's very helpful just to hear all of this because what I didn't realize was how busy they are at the end of the year. So being able to learn from other people, the processes and the reports and the things, that really go into it throughout the year while they get to wrap up everything that they've been working on is really nice.
Cool.
So it has been helpful and I appreciate everyone's time and training.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
if you
go
want
ahead.
to go over for dinner, I'm in Canton. Come on. You're
That's
welcome.
what I'm like, everyone's welcome to my house.
You can come and join me.
Hey Scott, this is Jason.
Yeah.
I had a question about not the rewards, but the awards. I guess that local units can earn. I've never heard of our PTA ever winning one. So would our local PTA have a record if we've won them, or is there like a central location, like either in the district or at the state, where we can see a history of our PTA winning some awards?
Yeah, I mean, that might be a good question, for the outgoing board that just came out. They would know about the previous year.
Let me see. We don't have, I know, like, we weren't given as a new incoming board. I have a box full of reports that I have not even looked at because they're past reports. So could Arnold Mill have something? Quite possibly. Do we have record of it? No. Unless it's in this box of reports that I literally put in front of my desk and said, Lori and I will take care of that eventually. So yeah, no, I can't say. I do know that we did not have a lot of reports last year, but it was COVID, so totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Reports are awesome. One, it gives you guys a great building block to work off of. It's a great way to kind of keep visions and goals in check. And are we doing this? Are we meeting these 6 national standards for PTA? So it's a great thing. I will tell you from when I started at Holly Springs, they got membership awards. They did that. They didn't do anything else. And so now I will say I'm an English major, so writing a report was nothing to me. I spent my February break writing like a mad woman, and just, you know, and just said, highlighted everything we did, and I popped it in with those standards of affiliation. And you know, we got a lot of awards, and it was really fulfilling because it showed council, it showed district, and it showed the state how much work that we had done and what we had turned around. So it's one of those things where it's like, yes, recognition for how hard we have worked. So it's a very fulfilling thing when your school is called several times. And then to know that, you know, we hit visionary, and I think that year we had hit the highest number of members that we had ever had in 5 years. That the school, so you know, there was different things like that. So there was some record at the school. So you would see like certificates or pins, look in awards cases. So I know like at Holly Springs, all of our awards I haven't been in that. I have not stepped foot in that school in 2 years now. So I don't know where they are now because we got a new principal and she decorated or redecorated. But kind of look around and ask, you know, it would be a plaque, there's pins, we have paper certificates. What else did we get, Scott? I know Little River has gotten tons of them too.
Yeah, those are, I mean, that's what I like, plaques and pins.
Yeah, so I think plaques and stuff, that would be really your go-to for, did we do this? And I know, and I could definitely tell you Arnold didn't turn anything in last year. But again, I think I have 4 years worth of reports in front of my desk on that side. There. That I have not looked at. So, you know, I'll let you know, Jason, if I find anything. And say, yes, you guys did turn in stuff. Would you want me to scan it and send it to you? Oak Tree is a really good one. If you get Oak Tree, then you pretty much are really close to getting that early bird. If you get all of your teachers, and then so in the early bird is what, like 200 by August? Yeah. We can definitely, I know membership was incredibly low. So we are having a rebuilding year, probably a rebuilding couple years. It is probably the main goal of all levels of PTA, from the local unit all the way up to national. We're having rebuilding is one of the big things, rebuilding membership. So I think, you know, a great goal is to go for 300, you know, see what you had last year, and if you need those numbers, we can pull them for you, and then try to at least add 100 to that if you can. Community members are awesome, and I would always say get people to donate memberships.
Yep.
So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah.
And you can set that up in the store to do like donated membership. And then that money would go towards, you know, oh, I have the entire cafeteria staff, you know, they may be in a place where they can buy a membership, but I got 15 donated memberships. I'm going to buy one for each cafeteria staff. That's just an example. Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'll post, I'll post information probably over the weekend, just links to different places, because it's a lot easier to see it like visual than going back to watch it on this video.
Yeah. So, but Any other questions that we can help you with? Doesn't have to be reports or VP related. If you have a whole PTA question, you can answer those too. Yep, y'all are a quiet group. It's all good.
Another question. I just would love to hear best practices, folks, what you've done to just drive engagement with just with families throughout the school.
That's an awesome question. Engage your principal. I think the first thing is to understand the demographic of your school. Understand those numbers. That way, you know, I mean, now I think that way, you know what you're working with. So I think really working with your principal, your counselors is another way to engage families. And then if you can get translators, if you need translators, we do have the language list for all the schools. So we have a list of how many different languages are in Arnold Mill Elementary School. It may be more than you think. So if you can greet someone in their native language, it's always kind of cool. My brother Gregory is ridiculously good at doing stuff like that. And he probably knows hello in 10 different languages. That's all he knows, but it's enough to get his foot in the door and a conversation going. It's just amazing. Engagement, so hard. I think being silly, I mean, at the elementary level, at least, you know what, even at the high school level, I think events that, dance parties, virtual dance parties, but being welcoming, being vulnerable, really being willing to listen, being willing to admit, yeah, we need to work on that, builds engagement and builds trust. That's just, being like, being like Scott and turning your hair purple, really being silly. I let people slime me. It was horrible, but I was slime. And I also got in a huge plastic ball and did a race with another PTA member. That was hot and sweaty, but really doing stuff that kids want to talk about and then they come home. But then also having programs like Exceptional Children's Week, where you're educating kids about different disabilities and parents going, I can't believe you talked about that. It opens up a conversation. Again, I think that goes back to being vulnerable and being willing to highlight things that people don't really want highlighted, but that's what our job as PTA members is to be. And I think once you build that open relationship with your teachers, with your principals, and with your parents, you get more engagement. And then you can never go wrong with a community event, something that brings a whole community together. And food.
Yeah.
If you feed them, they will come. Especially us Hispanic.
Harley, I'm just kidding.
I know you're all close by. I told you, come on, my kids aren't going to eat all these veggies.
I just want to add something real quick about the engagement piece, especially in an elementary school. For a lot of the kids in our school district, school is a safe place for them because home might not be the safest or nicest place for them to be. And sometimes just being a presence there, sometimes just giving kids high fives or sitting with them in the cafeteria when they don't have anybody else to sit with, sometimes that's engagement enough. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a big event or an assembly or anything like that. Sometimes it's just being a presence and being connected with the kids who need somebody there.
And knowing their names. Knowing their names and calling them out by name when you see them. I think that was huge. And trying to put siblings together. There was a set of twins that tricked me all the time. And I was like, and I didn't know that they were twins until the very end of the year. And they got a kick out of it. I was like, you're twins. So from then on, they were called the twins.
I have identical twins.
Okay, well,
They're in separate classes and they're not supposed to fool people, but no one can tell them apart, so.
yeah, no, they were a set of identical twins. And then they had a third brother who was, they were older than him, but the third brother looked like he was 2 grades above them. And they thought it was hilarious to just mess with me. I was like, I love you guys. But they see me at Walmart and they run and hug. I mean, so it's building those relationships. Knowing kids' names, even the tough kids. I knew every EBD kid's name.
Knowing their names is huge. I also substitute teach at our school, and you can tell the kids, like when they're walking in the morning and you say their name and they kind of light up,
Yeah,
it makes a huge difference in their day.
yeah.
Relating to engaging families, I know one we've always, especially the last 2 years, getting like the families of the younger kids, like kindergarten and the first grade, was hard to engage because they got the short end of the stick. Last year, their year ended, and this year, who knows if, you may not have even been able to be at meet and greet. And so they don't really know you or a normal situation. So if you can think of creative ways to get those first grade parents, second grade parents, and kindergarten involved, usually it only could take getting 1 or 2 to be active, and then they'll pull their friends in. So.
And if they say, can I help? Say yes, and give them a job. I mean, even if you're running around like crazy, I'll be like, yes, go over there and take money. Go over there and give out tickets for me.
Yeah.
Always have, I had, because this is how I would have too much in my head. I was like, yes, go to room 312, look at the whiteboard, there's a list. If it doesn't have a check on it, go do that. It was very nice.
Yeah.
And then I would come in at the end of the night, and everything would have checks on it. Made me happy.
One thing we always found helpful is to do have a sign up sheet or a sign up genius to obviously get volunteers, but have like if we can have events like a cleanup shift, and we found some parents will sign up. I mean, they're there at the dance with their kid, and then they'll stay and help you clean up, and then you can have conversations with them. So try to think of any job that you can think of at a dance or a function and put a time slot for it. Even if it's like handing out tickets, like Catherine said at the front.
Yeah.
So.
Anything.
I'll say that was, Scott, that was one of the ways that I actually was pulled in to volunteer was through the
Cool.
Sign Up Genius. And it was a tiny little job, and it was in such a big school that we have. It was so refreshing to go, okay, I think I can stand at the door and greet, or something like that. That's really small. When it was broken down like that, I know for me, that was a way that made me feel like I could be, as a newbie, as a kindergarten parent,
Right.
That was very helpful, and just made me feel less intimidated with a whole group that was already solidified to kind of find my way in there. And then,
Right.
And then I find my place.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Cool.
Any other questions? We do want to value your time, so we've gone 15 minutes over. But if you want to keep asking questions and talking, we are more than willing.
I know that
Catherine.
open house is probably a great way to engage a lot of parents. Have we heard anything if we're going to be allowed to have that?
Lori, do you want to talk about what Mike might mentioned?
Sure. There's no official word yet about in-person events. What I was told today was that the governor has a state of emergency or one of those orders that's set to expire on July 1st. And we'll know what the easements are for schools after that order expires. So we should have more definitive answers after July 1st. I realize that's going into, you know, the 4th of July holiday weekend and all of that kind of stuff. So I would say we should expect to know something by the second week of July.
I would say
Plan for it.
plan for it, but have a plan B virtual backup. But so we're making plans that will be in person. And if you need council members to come help you at your meet and greets and you need extra bodies, hit us up. We'll come out and help. We'll even help at events. Or I will, at least. I guess I won't volunteer anybody else on the board, but I will come out and help on events.
I love a fall festival, so invite me if you're planning one. I'll definitely
Ooh,
come.
yes, I love myself a fall festival or a craft fair. Ooh. I'm all about those.
Yeah, I'll be getting pies thrown in my face probably at our fall festival. So
Yes,
yeah, by all means.
that's awesome. I'll also volunteer for a dunk tank as long as it's not cold. No, the dog is not fed. My son is like, I will totally dunk you in a dunk tank. He's 15.
Any other questions? Cool. All right, Catherine, I think we're good.
All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.
Yeah.